SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
A Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity. What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown.
Use my drill press as a sort of lathe.
Our host, Neil Simpson.
If one light goes out, they all go out.
Filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
Good. Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining us. My name is Neil with SFJ 4x4 Simpson Family Jeeps. And boy, oh boy, are we off to a banger this morning. Pivot! I am joined in Grandma's Couch Studio by Hades and these two fine gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm Jeff, the producer, and
Italian
we are
stallion.
having all the fun issues this morning. So you may not see us on Facebook, but we are on YouTube today live. Sorry, Facebook just said no. And then over there we've got
the maddest mad scientist, which is joined in studio by his favorite person, the fan.
the
Yes,
fan.
which that old box fan has given it everything it's got right now.
I'm having traumatic flashbacks to laying in my bed at night sweating, trying to sleep, while the box fan works his tail off.
Oh, folks, I want you to know how much we value and appreciate you, being such an important part of this podcast family, and our attempt to bring you, quality infotainment is obviously challenging this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is, we've got technical difficulties, and we are just pivoting through the process in its entirety. So those of you who are normally used to watching us on the Book of Faces, you should be logging into YouTube and following along there. We do have a great show for you, but again, in the slew of technical difficulties, we are not able to bring our guest up on screen, but we have him through audio only today. And that is an incredibly decorated gentleman and individual from the Jeep community, Jerry Huber. And we're going to be talking about the Toledo Jeep Festival, which is only, maybe 6 weeks away or so, 7 weeks away at this point. And we're going to be talking about some of Jerry's experiences and his builds in general. He's a super cool dude and a good friend of mine. And per the usual, if you are interested in hearing about what is happening in our personal lives, you too should hang in there to the end, to the outro credits, and we will go ahead and update you on all the shenanigans that are happening as this heat wave grips the U.S. at the moment. Jerry, can you hear us?
Oh, he's not. There we go.
Hear you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Should be on the air now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I can hear you guys now.
Outstanding. So, Jerry, if there's, some background that you can provide our listeners just to kind of start to contextualize, who you are, because, you're incredibly decorated both in the actual your own builds, but then, your work history and now what you do for Toledo Jeep Festival. So can you kind of, I know it's not always easy to talk about yourself, but can you kind of tell us about, who you are?
Well, as kind of a quick introduction, I'm an old guy to start with. I was born in 1947.
You and
so
the
I
Jeeps.
have some good lineage with the older vintage Jeeps that I remember as a kid. When I got out of school, I went to college to study automotive technology. Knew from the start that I wanted to work in the auto industry. My I grew up in a Ford family. My dad was a general manager, part owner in a dealership. My grandfather was a service manager and excellent mechanic and so forth. And he developed arthritis over the years, and as a result of that, I got a personal tutelage on mechanics from my grandfather, because he knew what to do, but because of his physical condition, couldn't do it. So
Sure.
I became his extra toolbox guy for years, and we did all kinds of normal repairs, and then started getting into the more abstract kind of things, which are helpful skill sets when you start to work on your own vehicle and start to get involved in some design changes, if you will.
Absolutely.
But after I got out of college, I went to work for Ford. I worked there for 15 years. Then 1983 is my first exposure and actually time for employment at American Motors at the time. I took a job to come to the Toledo assembly plant, work in their paint operations. Basically, they had put in a new paint shop in the early 80s and couldn't figure out how to really make it work. You see some evidence of that, of some of the rust, corrosion, and paint issues that you had in the early 80s. Hopefully, by the time I got there, we had started to do some corrective things. We installed an eco system, which is electroprime system that is pretty much an industry standard now. We started to use base coat, clear coat materials for exterior painting. And after a couple of years in the paint shop, I moved into other areas of the manufacturing end of it. And in 1987, I was promoted to plant manager for that operation in Toledo.
Right.
So, I was there until after the launch of the TJ, 99. And then I went to corporate manufacturing and worked with some of the operations that, culminated with the retirement in 2005. So I've been I've been off the job, if you will, and somewhat out of the loop for 20 years now, and still busy. I have a lot of activity with the Jeep operation at the plant here. Still interact with a few of the engineers that are still kicking around that I've made friendships with over the years, and hope to be able to continue to be a viable part of the Jeep community for the foreseeable future. Right now, I focus on the Toledo Jeep Fest, working primarily with the people who do the activation for that event. Most of the planning and so forth we have under control, but now we're into the activation stages. As Neil mentioned, August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd is the event this year. So we're not quite on automatic pilot yet, but it's getting close.
Yeah, and I have such a tremendous respect for you, and you are such an incredibly decorated and humble individual. And I just want to hammer home that you were the man. You were the guy who was running the assembly plant for a little over a decade. I'm pretty certain is how the numbers play out. And here you are, still actively participating as an enthusiast in the Jeep community. And I personally, I like to call you my friend, and the people that I've been exposed to through you and your specific friends, I've learned so much about. Additionally, and it helps me create a. Oh boy,
Ignore that.
Jeff's doing things in our ears.
I don't know what's going on with that.
We might end up cutting this one short just because of the nature of our technical challenges. But regardless, I have had such a thrilling professional experience, learning from you. because you actually have a incredibly cool Jeep collection, and you're working on a really cool Jeep right now as well. Can you tell us a little bit about your personal builds and what you're currently working on?
Yeah, I'll give you an update on that project. You know, as I mentioned earlier in my in kind of my history and background, my real first experience with the Jeep product was actually goes back to 1968. If you recall, we were in the throes of the Vietnam War.
Sure.
I was just out of actually a 2-year college, and Kaiser Corporation built their last true military Jeep. Was called the M715 and M725. Those are just unique vehicles. They're what they call a 5/4 ton military vehicle, and the way their contract was given with the government is the government had 1 year after the vehicles were shipped to call for modifications. They started producing and shipping those in late 66, 67. So I came in at the tail end on a summer job at a big military base back in Pennsylvania, Letterkenny Army Depot, which is still one of their larger parts and refurbishing locations. And we had 5,000 of the M715s, M725, ambulances and military service vehicles at that location that were up for modifications. And I had signed on through a company called Manpower Incorporated to help do some of the service and retrofits on these vehicles so that they could be released then to the federal government and put into service.
Huh.
And it worked out so well that they decided the engineers from Kaiser, who were kind of overseeing and supervising this thing, asked kind of a core group of us if we would travel with them to their next military base, which was out in Savannah, Illinois, on the headwaters of the Mississippi. They had another 5,000 vehicles to work on out there, and so we said, sure, we'll do that. That was a good deal, and it was, back in those days, it was 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and they did pay overtime, so we were making a good summer income for going back to college, and it was a real learning experience, not only interacting with those engineers for the first time, but also seeing the military vehicle and having access to those military bases. When we were finished with the second group out in Savannah, Illinois, they asked us if we wanted to go to Texarkana, Texas.
Huh.
And frankly, we had been under about 10,000 of these Jeeps at that point, and summer was getting shorter, and we opted out of that program. And then after that, I really didn't get to do a whole lot with Jeeps until I came to work here in Toledo.
Sure.
But as a result of that, my fondness for the M715 is incredible. The retrofits that we had on the vehicles were nothing really major. I mean, they were all built to government specs, but during that 1 year of prove out and experience with them, they had a list of modifications that ran anywhere from changing the bearings in the front drive units from the PTO from roller bearings to needle bearings, things like that. We put some safety glass in the passenger side driver side glass.
Mm-hmm.
We redid some fire extinguisher mounts. There was an interesting seal on the pass-through. There's like a pass-through toolbox on an M715 right behind the cab.
Right.
That can handle like a litter that you would carry a wounded soldier on up to some light armament and rifles and so forth.
Sure.
So we had to change the weather strip on those doors because there was some leakage, and just a cadre of small items like that. A lot of retort stuff, reorient clamps, typically things that you would see on a model launch retrofit
Sure.
kind of an operation. But it was a fun project. It was educational, and like I said, after that, there's something about that senior Jeep and the M715s in particular that really makes the heart beat stronger.
Sure. Well,
So,
go ahead.
So a quick update. Last year, I had a real good friend that passed away, and he left. He was a collector of some older vintage Jeeps, and I inherited a 1946 CJ2A and a 63 station wagon with the overhead cam 230 engine in it, which is the same engine, by the way, that's in those M715s.
Sure.
So, which was really interesting. And the CJ2A, hey, you're talking about a vehicle here that's 79 years old.
Right.
So it needed lots of TLC. Hadn't run for probably 15 years, but I decided as a tribute and kind of a look back to the friendship I had with Mr. Hatner, my buddy Ron, that I'd get this thing running and do something with it. So after a lot of thought, I decided I'd do a Naval Shore Patrol tribute vehicle.
Cool.
Most of the guys, when you one of your first Jeep restorations is whether it's a military or a civilian version or an M38, but everybody wants to do an old Army Jeep. So I decided I'd do this Naval Shore Patrol vehicle instead.
That's
And
super fun.
interestingly enough, I've had for about 20 years maybe a 24-inch searchlight kicking around in my garage that I got from somebody or some sale or something.
Yeah, we all have one of those.
Haven't really figured out what to do with it.
Right. Right.
And I'm sure everybody that's listening, and you guys for sure, have one or two of those oddball pieces of history that's just too good to throw away, but you don't know quite yet what you're going to do with it. So
Yes.
the searchlight, which was originally one of those carbon arc reflector type searchligh's, has found a new home in the back of the CJ2A.
That's awesome.
And it's coming along pretty well. Where all the mechanical things that make the Jeep run, stop, and go look like they're under control at this point. I have driven it a little bit on the road. I put the searchlight is mounted, and now I'm doing the body and paint, which is an interesting thing when you get to have a vehicle that's that old, that's been sitting around. There were certainly some surprises in the sheet metal that had to be sections cut out and replaced. That's all done, and now I'm trying to make some decisions on a daily basis about some dents and dings and some scrapes and scratches and gouges as to how much of this I really want to get after. I'm not trying to do a museum piece or a show car because I intend to drive this thing, but I also want it to be presentable. So you get those decisions you got to make. Pretty much block sand and then say yes or no, and then keep block sanding usually. But you know how it goes.
Absolutely.
So, it's going to be interesting.
And as attendees of the upcoming Toledo Jeep Festival 2025, will they be getting to see this Jeep in living color?
You certainly should be able to see it. Yeah, that's the target. And like I said, I've actually started to mount back all the body panels that go back. We reinstalled the tail lights yesterday. The tailgate is back on. The spotlight is mounted, and most of the body and paint work is done. I'm really working on the hood and the windshield frame. It's got the original year windshield frame that has the flip out glass. So there's a lot of seals and things that have to come off and go back on. And,
Sure.
but yeah, I'm sure my schedule will make it fit that that'll be available for the Toledo Jeep Fest this year.
That'll be awesome.
And, you know, you are the curator of quite a few unique displays within the convention center. And I always appreciate you carving out space for us as well in that process. But when I was asking about your collection, you personally have a number of really unique Jeeps. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah, over the years, I've had a pretty interesting collection. Try to keep it somewhat fluid, moving some in and out every once in a while. But the vehicles that I've kind of zeroed in on are something that is a little unusual. That you're really going to have to look around to see something that's just exactly quite like that. So. Two of the vehicles that are kind of keynotes for my collection right now are a JK8, which is a four-door JK that's been modified into a two-door pickup. Looks like the pre-runner for the Gladiator concept vehicle introduced back in 2006. We've made a few modifications to it. Obviously, it came with a Dana 44 rear as standard, but we put a 44 E-locker in the front. My buddy Bruce, who was one of the engineers on the Egyptian military vehicle, had enough spare parts laying around that we were able to craft a supercharger for this thing because it's on that 3.8 engine, and that livened it up a little bit. And we've had it out to Moab, and it's a lot of fun to drive. It's a hard top with air conditioning, so you're on a day like this, you can still be somewhat comfortable and wheel with with some integrity. Now we're running 35s on it, so it's real tenable for the street as well.
Sure.
So next vehicle that was interesting, I think you had a chance to see this one last year, is a 2006 LJ, long wheelbase TJ. It's a little longer chassis than a frame than the CJ. They built them only 3 years, 04, 05, and 06, and it's got quite a few modifications. Most of them. One of the things I try to do, kind of it's a personal, I guess, interest, but I like to see modifications that are not real obvious, if you will. Mm-hmm. If you know what you're looking at, you'll pick up on them, but it's not not horrendous or so abstract that it jumps out at you. Like I've got I'll have people say, well, your tires seem to stick out on this LJ a little bit. That's because it's got the JK Rubicon axles. They were, a couple inches wider.
Sure.
When with the axles, if you're going to swap the axles, you might as well Artec truss them while you got them out.
Yeah.
And so the axles are built on it. We went to it's got 513 gears in it, so it handles the 37s without too much difficulty. Again, it's still streetable. In fact, last summer, one of my buddies that does some overlanding was running a trip from near Cadillac, Michigan, across towards the East Coast, and then a ferry boat, and then a couple of days on Boys Blank Island, which is in the middle of Lake Huron, where you're looking up at the Big Mac Bridge and Mackinac Island there. So I pulled a trailer with the LJ.
Wow.
Which was kind of interesting. A lot of people don't like to do trailers with Jeeps, The LJ with a little bit of longer wheelbase and heavier underpinnings did real well with it. And I pulled just a small teardrop, single axle teardrop that had some solar cells on the roof and able to run self-sustained, do off grid for 3 days. It was kind of fun.
That's cool. And that one has a really unique exterior, right? Is that the one that's all Americana?
Yeah, I did. That one I did. It's got like what they call urban camo, and I did a Blue Line Police tribute theme to it. So it's a silver Jeep, and so it's got a lot of accents with black and the patrolman's blue and so forth. Some of the emblems have been changed over and so forth. And I usually fly it with a blue line, or I usually have with a blue line flag when I'm at a show or something like that. But it's a little bit different looking. Obviously, sitting off on 37s, it's a little bit taller. But I run with the top on pretty much because of comfort, and it does have a poison spider full cage in it, just as part of the precautions whenever you would be taking it off road. And it's really got a lot of capability off road at this point.
Sure.
And the sideline that we did on that one here, I think I showed you under the hood on it last year. Bruce and I got real energetic, and we built a 4.6 stroker motor for it. So it's a little peppier as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Without going the V8 route. So, and then there's an off-road. I call it the off-road beast. It's an old YJ. It's a 90 YJ. With a small block Chevy in it, and it runs narrowed GM axle and a Dana 44 in the front, the GM 14 bolt in the rear. It's running on some 40-inch IROCs, and in all honesty, I'm having more and more difficulty climbing in and out of it since over the last 2 years. So that one may be finding a new home one of these days. But one of the real pride and joys of the collection is a 1989 Wrangler Islander. They only did the Islander for a couple of years, and this was the first year of it. And it's such an early one it has the half doors on it. And originally there was a big fight with the engineering people on the half door as to why do we even want to put door locks in it, because they were all soft tops.
Right.
So this one has no door locks. It never had the holes pierced for the door locks. So you've just got the door handles, and that's one of the first things people look at. Because the only way to really lock it is from the inside, because the mechanism is the same. But it's a very early Islander. It's a Malibu yellow. I still have it in, obviously, with the original paint and the original decals. It's got like 12,800 miles on it. Ooh. And most of those miles, frankly, have been either to or from an off-road trip. And I used to, when I first got that vehicle, we did pretty much all of the local Jeep jamborees that we would participate in. And that was before I was into the trailering thing, so we used to drive it to the jamborees, and we did one up in the Maine mountains from Toledo here. I think it was like 730 miles or something, and we drove up on a Thursday night, and then came back on the Sunday, and in an open top YJ on the expressways. It's like 3 days with marginalized hearing after you do a trip like that.
That's one of my favorites. That's one of my favorites of yours, because obviously my first Jeep was an '87 YJ, also no door locks, and so that was one of the things that absolutely stuck out to me, because the mechanism worked from the inside but not outside, and that for our listeners at home. I've seen that Jeep. It's largely stock in function and appearance, right? That's correct.
Yep.
And I love the fact that
the only real changes I've made on that one is when the Rubicons came out, some of the dealers were taking off the Goodyear tires and the Moab type wheels and putting aftermarket stuff on, and you could, if you were paying attention, you could pick up a set of those Goodyear Duratracs for a really, really good price. So I threw a set of those on it, and then if when the early ones were all carbureted, and again, my buddy Bruce, who was an outstanding mechanic and electrical guy, we converted this to direct injection setup, and if you plug into the DRB on it, it identifies itself right now as a 94 XJ.
Yeah, I love it.
So and of all the Jeeps that I've had over the years, I can always rely on that one to go out and turn the key to pressurize the fuel pump, and turn the key and it starts. Even if it hasn't been driven for 4 or 5 months.
That's what I love about you as an individual and your collection is, like, there's so many people who don't, they get into their JL, their JT, and that's incredibly comfortable and it's incredibly capable. But to take a late 80s YJ and actively use it in the capacity and then do the modification that you've done, while still maintaining kind of this stock look to it, is just kind of a testament to your really kind of how hardcore you are. I think that's the coolest piece, Like, I love that idea, and it's a very cool looking Jeep. So
I'm just going to interrupt for a second to go to kind of some of the comments here. We had a bunch of comments on YouTube. A lot of them were referencing that we're not on Facebook. Again, Facebook was not letting us stream today, so just kind of a reminder. We will try to get that loaded to Facebook later today. And then one comment was that Jerry is frozen, but Jerry is not frozen. He is just on mobile phone, so we have a picture of him on display where we would normally have camera. That is part of those technical difficulties of this morning. We could not get the video feed to work for Jerry. But otherwise, we had a lot of good mornings. Bradford was the first on YouTube saying good morning. Keith Dart was technically first because he commented on our last Facebook video.
Commented last week's video.
Because there was no video loaded at 10:19 this morning, so he was appropriately trying to be first. We got Bill McWilliams just commenting as well. Billy Joe, Daddy Jeep, Jeannie's Jamming Jeeps, Coleslaw, Joe O'Brien, and Amy all saying good morning.
Good morning, good morning to everybody, and we thank you so much for joining us. And again, we are adapting and overcoming in the most authentic Simpson family Jeeps and Jeep way possible.
I mean, to the point that you can't see it on camera, but we literally have a microphone pointed at my cell phone so that we could have Jerry on the air with us today, because technicalities were happening, and we just said, you know what? It's time to improvise, adapt, and overcome, and that's what we did.
Amen to that. Amen.
Just gotta embody the MacGyver aspect.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
We did not get to where we're at by sitting on our hands or expecting some cush, well-polished experience. We got to where we're at by just, tenacity, grit, and some perseverance, and here we are.
And despite all of the technical issues that we have, this episode is still sponsored by Windshield Defense.
Yes.
So if you want to take a moment and tell what that is.
So Windshield Defense, folks, is a product by Racing Optics that is a screen protector for your Jeep. The leading products available right now are going to be those TJ or LJ, as Jerry was talking about. So it's a cool product to round out all the other modifications you might make to your Jeep. And then, of course, your JK, your JL, and your JT. And it is a triple layer protective film that offers you kind of multiple opportunities to take rocks and debris and other schmutz to the windshield and arguably not break in the process. They did some really cool product testing where they dropped things from really far away or, launched ball bearings at windows or windshields. and they just simply didn't break. The product's been used for decades in the race industry and motocross, and just recently they have brought that specific product availability over to the Jeep market. And we encourage you to go to their website and use the product code SFJ20 to save 20% at checkout.
Plus free shipping.
Plus free shipping. And you too could be on the way to protecting thousands of dollars of investment, because quite frankly, these modern day windshields are not just our standard flat cut glass, and it can be very, very, very expensive to replace, let alone if you are out on the trail and you are running a TJ or a YJ. You don't really want to all of a sudden get some big rock come at you, or something come off the back of a truck and break your windshield while you're out trying to have a fun experience. If there does happen to be a blemish that happens to your windshield, you just go out and you peel off 1 or 2 layers, and basically the window is good to go again. We did have 2 Jeeps on display at Bantam Jeep Heritage Festival. We saw them as they immediately as you immediately entered the festival, and both those Jeeps, JL and a J2, were product equipped with the windshield defense by Racing Optics.
What I really like is their slogan is, "It's the clear choice," and it really is. It's so clear that people didn't see them on the Jeeps at Bantam. We had to show them which Jeeps they were on.
That's why there's little stickers in the lower corner of the windshield. Now, if everything goes to plan, we'll actually have one of those Jeeps at the Toledo Jeep Festival. And so, Jerry, if you're still hanging in there with us, would you mind telling us what your role at the festival is?
Yeah, and thanks for the heads up to everybody about windshield protection, because that's a really important aspect of owning one of these. It's something that you don't want to get into the habit of, is replacing windshields.
Right.
So if there's a product out there, I encourage everybody to give it a shot.
Awesome.
So, back to my role at Toledo Jeep Fest is I've been involved since 2016, when we did our first event, which happened to be the 75th anniversary of the Jeep product. And we decided to do a little kind of celebration that was kind of a local thing. We decided we'd have a parade and a Jeep show. It was all dedicated to the Jeep and the Jeep history. And the first year we put it together, and we did a little promotion with social media, and found out that the following was so strong. We had about 30,000 people showed up over. And it was a little over a one-day event when we did it the first time. So now we're up to a 3-day event. It's August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of this year, and we've got a number of activities and things for people to do to enjoy the Jeep lifestyle, meet your fellow Jeepers, get some ideas looking at other vehicles. You get some contact with some of the premier vendors and so forth, and you get to participate in a parade of all Jeeps. It's typically we'll run between. I think we try to stick to we have at least 1,000 and no more than 1,400, because it's a challenge to have that many organized. And then the really interesting part is that with our event, if you're in the parade, when the parade is over, we park your Jeep in the event footprint downtown in Toledo. We take over about a 20 square block area, and everything is focused on the Jeep or the Jeeper people during that time. Your restaurants and the hotels have specials, and they'll be decorated and so forth, and they'll be participating in some fashion. There's concerts. The Toledo Mud Hens, which is our minor league baseball team, they happen to be in town the weekend of Jeep Fest this year. They've got a game on Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon. They moved their Sunday game up until early afternoon so that people can participate. They're so interested and so supportive of the event that they rebrand the team, the Toledo Mud Hens, as the Toledo Mud Crawlers for those 3 days. and they'll have special jerseys and hats and uniforms. It's just a cool event that the entire community, not only the Jeep community, but the business community in downtown Toledo has gotten behind. And my role is as one of the organizers is focused on making sure it's a Jeep event and that we don't have all kinds of other activities that dilute the attention away from the Jeep, to recognize the product and recognize and celebrate the relationship that Toledo has with the Jeep manufacturing plant, which has been here, since the early 1900s as Willys Overland, and then really focused on the elements from 1941 when the first Jeeps were produced here in Toledo and are still produced today. So there's kind of a unique relationship that we have there. Certainly, the folks at Bantam have an ongoing relationship from a historical standpoint with the Bantam group and the early Jeeps and the prototypes and some of the early production units. But Toledo, with the ongoing production being here, it's kind of like a homecoming for a lot of folks when they bring their Jeep back to Toledo. So we always get a lot of activity over at the Jeep plant. Those iconic Jeep letters, it looks like they're carved out of stone, are available for photographs with your vehicle. The John North Willys homestead is downtown, not too far from the festival area. A lot of people, they do photo ops. One of the things you'll find about the Jeep community is that they love to take pictures of their Jeep in a Jeep environment.
That's true.
And so when you're in Toledo, you're in a great spot to do that. There's some murals downtown that have Jeeps depicted in them. The one hotel has a Jeep in the lobby that's right on the main street. It's a good event. I get to participate as a planner, and my primary role is, again, what I really relish is the opportunity to put together the historical Jeep display in the convention center. We get vehicles from all around the United States. We've got a great connection with the Jeep brand people, and this year they'll be bringing several of the concept cars from the Moab Jeep Week. A lot of folks get to see those in the newspapers and in the magazines. But when you come to our event, you get right up close to them, and you can touch them, look at them. They're right there, and they really are. You guys have been out to Moab, so during Easter Jeep Safari, so you know that those vehicles that are on display out there do two things. They recollect on and reflect on the history of the Jeep product over the years, and they also give some hints of what the Jeep future is in the way of styling and features, options, and so forth.
For sure.
So it's always interesting, and we always get some vehicles people have never seen before. Last year, if you recall, guys, we had the Jeep van. Was a green van called, I think, the Pickle. Yep. And it was called an FJ. It was built on a CJ3 chassis, so it's really tiny. It was originally done as a delivery vehicle and as a postal vehicle.
Yes.
Speaking of postal vehicles, last year we actually had one of the guys that used to work as a good friend of mine brought down one of the Alaskan CJ8 postal vehicles, which is built on a scrambler platform. Mm-hmm. You don't see many of them because we only built about 200 of them.
That's
back
cool.
in the mid '80s, and it was pretty cool. And to give you an idea of what you're going to maybe see this year is there's a company out there called Morgan Olson. They build delivery vehicles, parcels and things like that. And one of the vehicles that they're prototyped and have submitted to the government for a look-see is it's a postal vehicle built on a Gladiator type chassis and frame, and it retains the front end look of the Gladiator for marketing reasons and so forth. Right now, it's called the Serval.
Yep.
As the cat, CERVAL, and we'll have one of those for sure on display. And it's always interesting, when Neil, when you and the guys bring down your vehicles, you typically have the blue Grand Wagoneer. A lot of people have lost sight of that as being a Jeep vehicle. And yet, when they see it, it's immediately recognizable as one of the historical Jeeps that have added to the heritage and the legacy that the Jeep vehicles carry into the future.
Absolutely, and that's what I mean. Our attendance there. First of all, I always appreciate you giving us space, because that is such a decorated hall of history and future. I mean, it's such an incredible opportunity, because there are unique vehicles that people might only ever catch glimpses at other shows, but for whatever reason, the convergence of all of these unique vehicles, and I think that's a testament to your work specifically, because I know you're out there pounding the pavement, talking to these people and being like, hey, bring this down to the convention center, and so I thank you for making sure that we're a part of that. But I like to think that this, I know you brought up Bantam Jeep Heritage Festival. This part of the country is, without question, the birthplace and the proving grounds of Jeep. And so whether or not your credit is given to Butler, Pennsylvania or Toledo, it's hard to deny how important these 4x4s have been to this region of the United States. And so, for our listeners globally, understanding that these shows that we're talking about are embodying the very unique historical nature of these branded vehicles that we know as Jeeps. And obviously, Jerry, you play an incredibly important role now in kind of ushering that heritage and that future towards people, but obviously building them, yourself overseeing the plants before. When we go to Toledo, I'm always amazed at what you were bringing up as far as the restaurants, the baseball team. The Mud Hens, for people who might not be aware, are literally one of the oldest baseball teams in the consecutive baseball teams in the United States. And for them to change their name for the Mud Crawlers obviously is a great show of support to the Jeep community as a whole. And as we've attended at Toledo, I mean, people who are there for a baseball game, restaurant owners, servers, people who are working the parking facilities downtown, they're all Jeep-minded, even if they're not Jeep owners themselves. It's a really cool thing to experience. So if you've not been, I encourage you to go almost kind of solely for that reason, because when we were displaying and we were on the booth, or just in general when we're there talking to people, they're like, oh yeah, see that bumper? I'm actually on the assembly line that coats that bumper. Or I formed this tow hook or something like that. It's fascinating to hear the pride that people in that area take in how they have helped build the vehicles that we all love so much, and I think that that's one of the really unique things about that show specifically is you're just all of a sudden you're transported into this world where they think Jeep, they breathe Jeep, they eat Jeep, and it's we think we're Jeep nuts elsewhere living in the world. You might be the Jeep guy amongst your friend community, but until you've gone to Toledo, that Mecca, if you will, you don't know Jeep crazy until you've been there and kind of got that experience. So very cool. Now, one of the things that you personally do as well, I know you're a hobbyist and enthusiast, you're kind of into the RC world too. Is that correct? The crawlers?
Yeah, one of the things that you can't work on the big Jeeps all the time, and every once in a while you pick up something from a hobby. And I got hooked on this RC Jeeps and off-road vehicles a couple of years ago. For a long time I've restored the old Tonka Jeeps.
Okay.
I have a collection of those that my wife gets after me about all the time. But the RC community is kind of interested as well, and the rock crawler side of it has become really popular. It used to be when I was a kid. Neil, you can remember we had those little. First off, we had tether cars.
Sure.
That had like a little airplane motor on it. This winter, you tied them up in the center and watched them go around in circles. Then we got the slot cars and the HO scale slot cars that you could work on them for about 4 hours and then play with them for about 15 or 20 minutes. Then you had to work on them again.
Then you had to work on them again. Yep.
Yeah. But and that may have been just ground practice and training for our current lifestyle.
Yes.
But the RC vehicles now, and particularly the 1/24th and the 1/10th scale, are just amazing. The detail that they have. I just did one not too long ago. I found a company that makes a forward control, an FC.
No.
That's got locking axles that you can lock off of your controller, and they're cable actuated lockers that you can operate individually or for front and rear. You can do 4-wheel steer. I mean, it's like the limit is what your imagination and the time you want to spend and the pocketbook to buy all these crazy oddball pieces to put these things together.
Right.
So I'll admit to being hooked on those things a little bit. I have one that's a 1/10 scale replica of the JK8 that's pretty accurate. I mean, it's down to the wheels and tires. It's got a front-mounted winch and so forth. And then for years, I was trying to find a body, one of those clear Lexan body shells of an M715. And there was a company that made one, and then they went out of production. They were out of production for about 6 years, and I ran across one. So I just recently finished an M715 in 1/10 scale, and it's done in OD green with a tan canvas top. It's fairly capable as far as they're all 4-wheel drive.
Sure.
And just like our friends at Dana, they have locking axles and different size U-joints that you could put onto the drive shafts for the type of use you're going to have, whether it be plastic, aluminum, or I think somebody's making some now that are some aluminum alloy that's pretty strong. But these things they're crazy. I mean, they've got shocks, oil-filled shocks, spring-over suspensions. It's bizarre. How detailed they are.
Yes. Now,
I'll have to show you this M715.
I look forward to that. And on the last piece on the RC, last year, I believe you lost a parking spot in your garage to part of the RC track.
Yeah.
Did this winter treat you a little bit better? Is your wife a little happier? What?
It's still out there, so but, she can get the minivan in without any problem, and we have to find a new location for that the 1/24 scale RC course.
Okay.
But last year you guys were right across from the RC course that we have set up for the kids, which is kind of a neat feature. We've partnered with a hobby shop out of the Detroit area called Nankin Hobby. They've got like 5 stores up there, and they bring down some demo units that we let the kids use, and The course itself is we start out with a 30 by 50 carpet, and then we put, different kind of obstacles on it. There's one of them that the wife and I built this foam mountain. It's a framework that's got spray structural foam on it. The thing just fits on a double axle car trailer, so we can move it around.
Right.
And that's been right across from your guys' location the last couple of years. So you see the amount of traffic and interest that gets.
Absolutely.
And we think that as part of the promotion, that gets these younger kids back into looking at Jeeps in an all different way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've got two final questions for you. I heard you, I talk with a lot of people every day, Jeep. I hear you very passionate about a 715. You brought it up a couple times. I know we've talked about when. I think you might even be in a 715 group with me. When are you starting a 715 build?
I'm finishing up the projects that I've got open right now.
Okay.
Before I even think about doing that.
Okay.
I look once or twice a week. I try to stay in touch with where the cool ones are and so forth. But yeah, I'm not ready for an M715 project.
I understand that too well. And I guess the last piece is I just want to reiterate some of the details over the Toledo Jeep Festival. And if you could just kind of tell us the dates again, and if there's any other final details you want to share with us.
Sure. Well, and I'm anxious to do that. First off, the event is August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Coming up here in about, 6 weeks or so?
Yeah, roughly.
So a registration should still be open for the parade. I've got a few spots left for the inside display at the convention center. Those are really the only two things you have to register for. The rest of the cool events, pretty much free. You just got to show up and have a good time. I encourage you to look at our website. It's ToledoJeepFest.com. There's registration form, links to registration forms, links to where to stay for hotels. All the questions that you have. There's a link to some merchandise page, and I'll tell you, we do this one marketing group that we work with, Thread Marketing. They do an outstanding job on the merchandise stuff. It's reasonable, and it's top quality, and it's unique.
Cool.
And we work very carefully with the Jeep people, so we don't get into some of their brand infringement issues that you get to at some events. So they're good partners with us. We try to respect their trademarks.
Outstanding.
So and our Facebook page is Toledo Jeep Fest. You can find it. There's a ton of it on social media. There's Instagram sites. We've got some YouTube stuff out there now. But it's real simple. If you just whatever platform you're looking at, if you put in Toledo Jeep Fest, you'll get linked. Guaranteed.
Awesome. Jerry, thank you so much. You are absolutely a gift to the Jeep community, and more people need to know your story. And from your childhood, it reminds me a lot of Scott. Honestly, your interest and your ability to just consume everything automotive and Jeep is such a unique asset to all of us. And thank you so much for taking time this morning to be on our program and being willing to kind of push through with us with all these technical difficulties and share with our listeners. So thank you so much. We look forward to being at Toledo Jeep Festival. We're going to be bringing you 2 or 3 of our hottest Jeeps. I encourage people to come out to the show. We'll be there, showing off. And always a great part of the Jeep community. Thank you so much, Jerry. We're going to let you sign off. And, folks, after the outro, we'll be back with our weekend updates. Until next time, Jeep on.
Keep on.
Jeep on.
See you, Jerry. Thank you. Thank you. a good one. Take care.
So in true adapt and overcome fashion, I guess that's a good lead into my weekend sort of update.
And I want that, right? I'm here for that. But that was remarkable. I'm going to take just a moment and be like, the fact that he could hear us as well as he could with the fan going off of your
Cell
phone off of just the mic of the speakerphone.
Yeah.
God, I really hope that translates well, because that was about as good as it gets for as many technical challenges as we had.
It was a rough start.
I held my breath the whole time, and your phone didn't die, and he stayed right on course with everything as far as he could hear us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so your true fashion of adapt and overcome is, I get it.
So I have an older friend that used to be a machinist, and obviously when you're a machinist for a long time, you have a collection of machines at home, and you know where they all are. So he gave me a call, and he said, hey, would you be interested in a larger lathe? And I said, absolutely.
Sure.
My little 8-inch, well, it's been doing a great job, is a little bit size challenged. And, you know, I was spoiled with Dad's larger lathe when I was a kid, so I have to keep trying to think of how to use the smaller machine. He said, well, this is a 13-inch closing lathe. I was like, okay, I'm on board. And then he's like, well, you just look it up online and you know, you get an idea of the weight. He said, I think it's like 600 pounds. I'm thinking that doesn't sound right, but, you know, I'm going to roll with it.
Sure.
So we go out Thursday, and if you're in our general area, you know, it's been nothing but rain. So
Up until 2 days ago when
Yep.
Hades decided to grace us himself.
Yep. So we get there, and he's like, oh, they got skid steers, they got tractors. We got plenty of ways to lift this thing. So there's this huge New Holland tractor that honestly makes your tractor look small.
Oh, boy.
And on the edge of the forks, it wouldn't pick it up. And I thought, that's not 600 pounds.
Right?
Betting that's like 1,500 pounds. But anyway, we get it loaded, we get it tarped, we get it strapped. We get home. It's raining still, and I'm hating it because it's out in the weather, even though it's tarped.
Sure.
And the weather took like a short hiatus. We had a couple things that were supposed to be going on. There was a car show and some other thing. All that was canceled because of the weather. And I looked at my wife and I said, think we can unload that? And she's like, absolutely. So I used the tractor, put the engine crane on the trailer. We pick up half of it with that. We use the tractor on the other edge because my tractor is a little bitty tractor. And before that, we had backed the trailer up to where it was almost in the garage. And we used the tractor to drag it off the trailer. And she slowly let down the engine crane, and I slowly let down the tractor. And back and forth, we got it down onto the ground. And then me, and my son took what seemed like eternity with the engine crane, picking up the entirety of it to push it over into its spot because there's a lot of stuff in my garage. So
Yeah.
we end up having to crank up the table on the mill with vice grips because by the time we realized we needed to crank the table up, the lathe and the mill were intimate closeness.
Oh, boy.
So you couldn't use the hand crank anymore.
Oh, boy.
So there was lots of like inches were all about the ability of getting it where it needed to go, but we did get that done. And yesterday I spent the time, leveling it and oiling it and cleaning it up because it has been sitting for a long time in this barn. This originally was owned by my older friend, and I thought it was funny. We like the history of things. He told me where this machine originated from. It was actually from Premix in North Kingsville.
Oh.
So it took for a short sabbatical in Pennsylvania, and now it's back home.
Yeah.
Where it
Came back to Kingsville.
Where
It's
it
like a
should be.
boomerang. It's a boom. It went a couple blocks, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's now a couple, country blocks away.
Yeah, it's a between a 79 and an 82 machine, so it's right in the right era with my mill to keep it company.
Sure.
So I'm pretty excited about that. And other than that, my side-by-side decided to stop moving, and
That was a big bummer.
That was a
You've been
huge bummer.
excited about that.
I've been excited and wanting to. Honestly, one of the things two things I want to do with that so much is drive it to the covered bridge by my house, and come to see you while you're working on the house.
Sure.
And I keep thinking about actually it was Thursday. I was like, maybe I should go get a plate for it. And there's all this stuff going on. Should I invest that money right now? And then I went to use it, and I heard a pop, and it stopped moving.
Yes.
So yesterday, yesterday I tore it apart and found out the primary clutch basket broke. All neutrals, no movement. So got to investigate some part replacement.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, when I was looking at that, and that sucks, right?
Yeah.
In a major way, but I suppose it could be worse, right?
Yes.
I mean, that seems like
the
it's
transmission
an external.
could be bad.
Correct. Correct. This is a clutch basket, and so
the company that makes it's actually out of Canada, French Canadian. If you go on their Facebook page, there's lots of French on there.
Wait.
I was gonna say, you were waiting for it.
Wait.
You wanted to do it.
So they at least exist.
Do you want me to call them? I'll call them.
I mean,
for
you might have to, because I don't
Bonjour.
translate as good as you do.
Bonjour,
But other than that, that's
mate.
That's Australian.
No, everything they say ends what a or mate as well, isn't it?
No.
Nah, they do something.
no.
Nah.
Anyway, I heard you had some excitement at your projects as well this weekend.
Yours,
yeah, I mean,
we all did. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it was not the most desirable situation. And Jeff's excited to share with his, because his ended in some type of catastrophe. So I'll allow him to.
No, go
I
ahead.
mean, mine was when
I was gonna say yours was catastrophic too.
So we've
all of us had a great, great time
this
with
is
our
like a
tractors.
humbling moment, right? People look in at us and they're like, "Oh, those guys got this, that, and the third." And I've had a conversation about that. In fact, if you're on any of my personal socials, I made a big post about it about 10 days ago. Mm-hmm. You're looking in at me now. If you've encountered us just in the last 3 to 5 years, you're looking in at me now. You don't see the guy who slept in the ground and showered in the spigot and loaded trailers into the deep hours of the night.
Which you
stuff.
absolutely still would do.
100%, and
Not
we
only
do
that,
enough shenanigans.
If you want to do it the easy way, you just go and spend like $3,500 for a machine. They deliver it. You have an electrician come out and hook it up.
No,
I take a $500 machine.
and we try to get every little bit of life out of it as possible.
$3,500 on it.
No,
Easy,
no,
Jeff.
we spend $10,000 on it.
That's fair.
That
That's
is the way
fair.
it's supposed to be done. No, so anyways, well, and in that note, I mean, part of Jennifer and I, hand building this house, and it's been this great community experience where we've got to visit with friends, and people have contributed their skill set and their knowledge. And I was sharing with a friend who came up. Her husband is pretty proficient in operating, a backhoe and equipment and stuff like that. And I find myself, despite owning a backhoe, not having a tremendous amount of patience to sit there and dig repetitively. I almost am like a child. I'm good to do it a little bit in the sandbox, but then I'm ready to move on to something else.
You don't like to sit still.
That's exactly the issue. It's just not satisfying enough. Where Jennifer said, "Hey, I will do this. I accept this as my responsibility." She reached out to a friend who is proficient, and he and his wife also hand built their house, and this was 30, 40 years ago, but again, kind of shared experience. And we met them early on Saturday, and we started trenching with the expectation we were going to trench as much of this shy of 500-foot water line and fiber optic line, trench as possible. And we were just getting into the groove of things when my wife took a hydraulic shower. And that was unfortunate because it was the pressure hose on the backhoe, and the backhoe is a frame-mounted unit in our situation, and it was the pressure side. So the moment that you bump the key over in the any form of the hydrostatic transmission or PTO of sorts is running. It's actually not the PTO. You don't even need the PTO to run. You just, since it's a hydrostatic system, it's immediately pumping on the pressure side. And so piping hot pressurized hydraulic fluid. Fortunately, the shields and stuff were in place, so it didn't immediately, cause any irreparable damage, but rendered us completely dead in the water as the boom was, 4 feet out and 4 feet down in a hole with the outriggers down. So the tractor has been, just completely sidelined. Of course, because of the semi-rural nature at which we live, despite the fact that the tractor is new and everybody's like, well, that hose should be under warranty. This was a big conversation for me because, is a hydraulic hose under warranty? I understand the tractor is new. It was expensive. Is it under warranty because is that a wear item,
Usually a wear item.
And so I'm kind of accepting of that, where everybody else is kind of up in arms that our, new expensive machine is down because of this stupid issue. I've lost a bunch of time and energy. I did try
But this
reaching out.
isn't the first time that you've lost hydraulic on it either.
We had a fitting come loose. All that was just tightening
okay.
up a fitting.
Okay.
That was just simply a loose fitting.
So I guess this kind of answers our age-old question: what's better, the green tractor or the red tractor? Mark up on the green tractor at the moment.
Wow.
Wow. But I think it is
Out
an
of that whole
interesting
story, that's what he heard. He didn't
Right,
hear
that's
about the
exact-
fact that your wife got absolutely soaked in hydraulic oil.
No, the fact
That
the
you were
tractor
down for the weekend.
The fact I lost all that time and energy. No, he was like, my green tractor. No, it is interesting because I had to just chill out and chill everybody else out around me because I'm like, these things happen, and people expect when they buy a brand new Jeep or they have all of this work being done to the Jeep, all of a sudden that it's just going to be sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns.
It's magic.
And it's not. It's still moving pieces. It's still nuts and bolts. It's still hydraulic. It's still thermo. Things that are subjected to thermodynamics. So heat cycling and cooling. I wasn't mad. What I was upset about is our semi-rural nature and the fact that I couldn't get a hose made on a Saturday.
Yeah.
That's what had me
I knew that
frustrated.
was going to be your challenge.
And we did try. My wife jumped in the Jeep, ran around the county, and people either had one fitting or not the hose, and weren't open. And so here we are on Monday. I'd like to be fixing that. Otherwise, we took full advantage of our proximity to the waterfront the rest of the weekend, since we had been going pretty strong through Bantam. After the hydraulic debacle, Jeffrey and I worked in the beating hot heat of the day roofing.
Yeah, we picked the perfect time to be out roofing, doing metal reflective roofing.
I mean, you weren't sunburned enough.
Yeah, we weren't sunburned or stood in the sun long enough out at the weekend prior at Bantam.
Lots of fluids.
We had lots of fluids and we just went strong, but we can kind of put to bed that roofing project. Thank you for that, Jeffrey. And then, as I mentioned, took full advantage of our proximity to water and just kind of hung out near the beach or family pool and stuff like that. So tried to make the best of it with what we had. Jeffrey, I heard that you haven't mowed in 30 days.
It was 2 weeks because I
Felt like 30 days with the rain.
It felt like 30 days. And I was all excited to get that mowed down because it was getting a little tall. So after the roofing, I hadn't had enough abuse yet, so I went home and I jump on the tractor and fires right up. I hadn't even throttled it up. I was like, oh, that started real easy. Usually I throttle it up to start it.
Sure.
Get it into the front yard, realize that it's low on gas, so I pull up to the garage, stop to fill the gas can, or the tank, fill it up. Doesn't start. Are you kidding me? So I grab a spare battery out of the garage, jump it real quick, fires up beautifully. Pull the PTO switch so the mower deck turns on. Nothing. And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting there staring at it on and off a couple times, pull it up, and I hear, and then it kicks on. I was like, oh, maybe something was just cutting
Yeah, it
the
was
blade.
just
Whatever.
jammed up.
Whatever. So I mow the front yard, and then I go to do the side yard next to the fence before I go to the backyard. I had to shut the PTO switch off to get across the driveway so I'm not shooting gravel at my neighbors. So I get to the little side yard, pull the PTO switch, nothing. I'm like, are you kidding me? Up, down, nothing. I've raised the deck, lowered the deck.
You're trying to jostle
what is
a
going
little
on?
bit. Sure.
So I pull it back into the backyard. I'm frustrated. I'm like, I'm going to take a moment, and because I'm drenched in sweat from doing the roofing, sitting in the sun doing that. whatever. So I end up flipping the hood up to see what's going on. The PTO switch is melted.
Oh, dear.
The harness connector is melted.
Hmm.
I'm like, huh. Well, that's a problem.
You were sitting on a tractor fire.
I was.
Good.
I was, because I wasn't hot enough.
Right.
So then, I go on, figure out where to order it. Good, whatever, $60 between the connector and the plug. I'll get it taken care of. But then Sunday, because I hadn't had enough abuse yet, we had, it was nonprofit week at the Erie Seawolves baseball game, so minor league baseball. We go out to the game. It was 5 of us from our nonprofit group. We had free tickets through nonprofit partnerships, so that was pretty cool. Except for the heat, that was not cool.
Mm-hmm.
We get into the stadium. Interestingly enough, I've gone to the stadium since it opened when it was Jarriott Park.
Sure.
Now it's UPMC Park. I think there was another name in there somewhere. But the main entrance gates that I've always used were closed when we got there. And I'm like, what is going on? And they got these arrows. We know you've been using these gates for 25 plus years, but now you got to go down this way.
Not today.
Yeah, not anymore, period. They have a whole new entrance. They said,
Oh.
we built all the cool stuff down here, so go down here.
Huh.
So we get in. We go find where our seats are. And when I say there is no sunnier spot to be seated, I'm not exaggerating. We were in the sunniest spot of the entire stadium. And so we get up to our seats, and the plastic chairs for stadium seats, whatever, fold it down, sit down, and I anticipated sunburn, so I had sunscreen. I did not anticipate third-degree burns on my butt from sitting on these seats. It brought me back to childhood metal slide days. It was so hot.
Yes.
And honestly, the Seawolves were getting crushed horribly. It was like 9-0 going into the bottom of the 5th. Seawolves were up to bat, and I just looked over at my dad, who was sitting next to me, and I'm like, if you want to leave, I'm good to leave whenever you are.
Right.
And so we're like, well, let's see how the 5th ends, because they obviously have no chance of coming back. And it was great. They had bases loaded. They hit a line drive down the left line and stayed fair. And you see the left outfielder go running for it, and he just disappears.
Oh?
All the bases just run all the way through. And I'm like, that was really good for a moment, but I think it's going to be rolled to
Seawolves were
ground.
on the base, or who was?
Seawolves were up to bat.
Okay,
and then
okay.
They had bases loaded.
Okay, so
And
it's
so
a
it's-
potential grand slam.
It's a potential grand slam, and I'm waiting. They're not coming back with the ball. I'm like, crap. They're going to call it back.
Yeah.
They ruled it ground rule double because the
Yes.
ball got stuck
Somewhere.
Yep. But so Seawolves got 2 scores out of that.
Sure.
And then we're like, all right, they're still not coming back. Time to go.
Right.
And we left after 5 innings, which I've never done that before. For
Oh,
a
I know.
Seawolves game.
I get it.
And it was just so brutal. The heat, lots of hydration. It was a great opportunity to drive with a Jeep with no top, no doors. Got to enjoy that all the way to Erie and back. So
Sure. Well, and I think, with that, that's a good segue for our listeners at home and our live listeners specifically. As we get into these hard dog days of summer, please enjoy your Jeeps responsibly. Don't push yourself or the Jeep beyond its limits, and understand and know what those might be for yourself and for your Jeep. We always talk about perspective and relativity. This is one of those moments. So those of you who are listening live, hydrate. Same goes for your Jeep. Make sure the fluids are topped off, and make sure you're not working it in a sense that subjects you to risk or breakage. Until next time, Jeep family, stay safe. Jeep on.
Jeep on.
Jeep on.